Welcome, guys. This is Glasgow Rangers Nation. I am Owen James, and this is all your latest Rangers news. Guys, we are maybe, possibly, perhaps, all those words that kind of sow a seed of doubt. Are standing on the edge of the end of an era. Are we standing on the shoulders of giants, as a once famous rock band once sang? Yes, reports in the media all across Turkey and England and Scotland and Europe and probably the world, if the world are into this soccer, football, malarkey, soccer in America, football here. Yeah, James Tavernier could be on his way out of the club this week with the Turkish window closing on Friday the 13th. A date that lives in infamy. Friday the 13th, guys. Not the name of the horror movie. And it won't be a horror movie for Rangers if James Tavernier leaves. As I know, many fans think it's a horror movie if James Tavernier stays. So we'll talk a little bit about that in this video. Let's talk about the possible international retirement of John Souttar. According to reports in the media, he is considering his international future after being snubbed yet again by Steve Clarke, the Scotland manager. The man who is famous for, whilst he picks Rangers players, not particularly liking them or using them. And obviously the fact that John Souttar missed out on the European Championship squad as well is something fresh in Big John's memory bank. And rumours about a former Rangers player attracting interest from one of the biggest teams in world football, a team that plays in black and white. No, not Newcastle United, but a certain other team, a team that is known as the Old Lady, La Vecchia Signora in its own country. We'll get to that shortly. Anyway, let's start off with the big news, which is the news about this man, James Tavernier, current Rangers captain, a man who, no matter what we think of him now, I think he is a pale shadow of the man he used to be, a pale shadow of the player he used to be. Tav has served this club, absolutely amazingly well, in terms of the fact of what he cost us to what he has contributed over the years to this club. I think he's more than paid his way, and with masses of interest. Now, I know that obviously James Tavernier has caused a lot of issues and a lot of arguments amongst Rangers fans in recent times, given his fall off in the way he's played since March last year. The perceivably, obviously, loss of pace, the loss of the ability to defend, although he's never been the best defender in the world anyway, has he? But, stats-wise, 125 goals, 131 assists, certainly stands the man apart. His 10th season with the club, 467 appearances in total. A player that, has contributed a massive amount to the club, no matter what you think of him. Now, fans have perceivably turned on him in the last few weeks due to the fall off and in his performances, the way he's performed, the way he's not particularly played very well. He's obviously not scored any goals this season. I think he's got a couple of assists or one assist maybe. His defensive skills have been poor, and his performances against our city rivals in particular have been very poor indeed. Dyson Maida is certainly a man who seems to own James Tavernier and run rings around him every time we play them. And I think the kind of thing that is perceived now amongst a lot of fans, amongst a lot of analysts as well, is that teams do target the right side of our defense, seeing James Tavernier as a weak link in that defense. Now, we brought you stories last week of 6 teams allegedly interested in securing the services of the Rangers captain, 2 from Qatar, 4 from Turkey. Now, I think, a lot of people thought that this was just Turkish media being Turkish media, sowing this seed as they did, previously with the likes of Alfie Morelos, Ryan Kent, which I know came off. Turkish media are famous for kind of not getting things right and kind of blowing things out of all proportion, aren't they? They're very, they're very famous for it. They're even more famous than some of the tabloids down south. However, it appears that there could be some legs in this current story. Now, a former Rangers manager, yes, Mr. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, has taken over as manager of Besiktas. Besiktas have started the season exceptionally well. They've won 3 from 3, currently placed 3rd on goal difference. I think Fenerbahce are top, having played a game more than Gala, who are 2nd. Not only that, but Besiktas have also progressed to the Europa League group stage and have Europa League ties coming up against the likes of Maccabi Tel Aviv, Ajax, Malmo, just to name a couple of opponents. So, they are an attractive proposition. They're a team that are very much in contention for the Turkish league. They're a team that are competing in Turkey. They're also a team playing European football in the Europa League. So they carry a big attraction. Now, could it be that former Rangers manager Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, the man who got us to a Europa League final, a man who won a Scottish Cup, and a man who was never really backed by the board, a man who I think was very much let down by the Rangers board. Yes, I think his football did suffer at times, but maybe that was because of the players that he had. That he wasn't given the players that he wanted. He wasn't given the tools to do the job, and I think maybe his football suffered as a result of that. However, it appears that according to a number of reports, even in some unreliable and some reliable sources, that Besiktas have made contact with James Tavernier's representatives to discuss the possibility of a move, to obviously ascertain whether the player is interested in a move. There's no point obviously pursuing a move, doing all the legwork, putting money into it, getting all that research done and putting background into it if the player doesn't want to go to you. I think that's obviously something that that a lot of clubs will want to ensure before they sort of commit anything. Then obviously it's negotiating with Rangers, agreeing a price. Now, I've done a little bit of looking around. Now, transfer market, well renowned for being utterly ridiculous in some of their valuations of players. I mean, Todd Cantwell was valued at $8.5 million. I think we got 650,000 for him. James Tavernier currently valued by transfer market at 6.5 million, which I think euro, which is around £6 million, which I think is wholly unrealistic for a player of his age and a player of declining ability as well. So I honestly believe that one is not really a goer at this point. We're not going to get 6.5 million for Tav. If you can get 2 million, 2.5 million for James Tavernier, I think it would be a miracle. I'd personally take $1 million for him at this stage. To get him off the books, to get the 30 grand off the books. I did see an unbelievable figure the other day, actually, reading that Rangers had saved somewhere in the region of £35 million annually on their wage bill in the last couple of months, which is absolutely incredible. Obviously, getting Tav off the wage bill, getting the last massive earner of over 30 grand off the wage bill would be very positive for the club. So, look, this appears to have a few legs. That appears to be a story that could have a bit of truth in it until Chris Jack obviously comes onto X and pisses on your cornflakes, which he loves to do. I think that, if this is a possibility, if this is a genuine interest from Besiktas, if Gio is genuinely serious about taking James Tavernier to Turkey, then I think the club should press ahead with this, and push this as much as possible to get a fee for a player who, is in his declining years, to get a player who's had an awful lot of stick from fans. I don't think it's fair for James Tavernier to go out like this, to, give him a chance to go out perhaps, now before his reputation gets much more maligned and much more damaged. I think that would be the best possible solution. Now, I know that, Rangers allegedly have talked to Cyrus Christie about being a replacement for James Tavernier. Personally, don't think that's a great move. He's 31 years old, ex-Republic of Ireland international guy who, was released by his last club because of injury. It's not the sort of player we want, another injury-prone player. Especially as I think we've already got, two possibles to play at that right-back position if James Tavernier was to depart the club. Obviously, Dujon Sterling been the obvious one. Yes, I know he's very useful as a CDM and as a winger, but Dujon was actually signed as a right back. That was his initial position. The other one obviously is Neresheo Casanwejo, or Big Cass. He's another player who can play right back, has played a perceivable amount of his time at Feyenoord as a right back, although he has played at centre back for Rapid Vienna as well. And of a number of other clubs during loan spells. So I know that Cass can fill in at right back or at centre back, but the fact we've got these two players already in the club who can play right back, and that's forgetting obviously the likes of Adam Devine, who really never has had a fair crack of the whip, I don't think. So I don't think that if Tav was to go, it would leave us substantially short at right back. I think we'd have enough strength in depth there with Dujon, with Cass, with Adam Devine to more than cover his absence. Now, I know captaincy is something that is discussed and is certainly something that, would be then therefore, a concern of some, taking away the long-serving captain. Jack Butland obviously is the obvious name, but I think, given Jack's current form, I think putting any further pressure on him, laying anything else on him is far from ideal. And personally speaking, I prefer a captain to be an outfield player, someone who can be all over the field, someone who can be involved with the players further up the field. I don't see at this moment in time a real standout person to take over as the long-term captain of Rangers. Connor Barron is a possibility. Dujon Sterling is a possibility in the long run, once they've got a little bit more experience under their belts. For me, the perfect candidate until the end of the season would be Leon Balogun. Big Leon's obviously only got this season. He's signed that extension to his contract till the end of this year. Big Leon is a leader. We see that every time he's on the park. He's a guy who understands the Rangers way. He's a guy who, is in love with the club. He loves the club. He cares about the club. He gives a damn every time he goes on a football field about this club. So for me, Big Leon is, the outstanding candidate to take the captaincy at least until the end of the season. The guy is a leader, a communicator, the man. And like I said, you listen to some of his post-match interviews and you get that he actually gives a shit about this club and he actually cares about this club. And look, I know I'm biased. I know I love Big Leon. He's one of my favourite players. But, for me, he's the outstanding candidate until the end of the season, until we can get somebody on a more permanent basis next year. Guys, let me know what you think of these stories about Tav leaving, Balogun for captain, and who could be his best replacement. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm a little bit behind on comments. I do apologise. So what else is going on in the world of Rangers? Now, John Souttar has returned from international duty after yet again failing to feature for Scotland. Even though Scotland have put in some fairly woeful defensive displays, Grant Hanley in particular being absolutely, genuinely dreadful. John Souttar also, it's worth remembering, was left out of the European Championship squad. Now, I know John Souttar is someone that some Rangers fans don't rate, other Rangers fans do rate. I think he's a pretty decent player, to be honest with you. I know people say, oh, he's got a mistake in him. But look, I think if John Souttar didn't have that mistake in him, I don't think he'd be playing for Rangers. I think he'd be playing in the EPL. That's just the way things are. And I'm not trying to downplay Rangers here because they're my club. I love them to bits and they're one of the biggest clubs in world football. But, when there are real top talent players, we can't afford them at the moment. That's just the way things are. Souttar has come back apparently from the internationals again, having obviously not featured, having obviously not been used. And I think, there is a real kind of debate going on in John's head as to what is the best future for him. Is it worth him playing international football now? The guy's 27. He's not getting any younger. He's obviously not getting picked by Steve Clarke for whatever reason. And no matter about how bad Hanley is or McKenna is, he doesn't even get a look in. And that's unfair on Big John. It really is. And the fact that he was left out of the Euro Championship squad as well, I think does rankle with him. So, he can also, I think he possibly sees as well, international breaks has been a time where he can rest, recuperate, and get back to his best to rest his body. And, having time off, intensive training in international football, I think would be good for him. And, I think a lot of us, when Ryan Jack was going through the same thing, were hoping that Ryan would give up international football. There's a possibility now that John Souttar could not. I personally think that it would be the best for him and the best for Rangers. Okay, let's finish today by talking about former Rangers player Malik Tillman. Now, Malik Tillman obviously started at Bayern Munich. He came to Rangers on loan. I think a lot of Rangers fans felt that he was worth buying. That that if the speculate to accumulate was definitely there. Even though I suppose he hadn't really performed well in Champions League and Celtic games. Sorry. However, it was decided, obviously, by Bayern Munich not to allow him to join Rangers, even though there was that constant debate at the end of Michael Beale's first part season. And Tillman was obviously then returned to Bayern Munich. Rangers were paid a penalty fee, so of a compensation fee, and given 10% of any future transfer fee. Tillman then moved on to PSV Eindhoven for around 12-13 million, which netted Rangers between 1.2 and 1.3 million pounds in that sell-on fee. that Bayern Munich very kindly gave us. Tillman really impressed for PSV Eindhoven last season, showing what a quality player he was, even featuring from the bench and starting games. Now it appears that Juventus of Turin are looking at Malik Tillman and seeing him as someone who can come into their squad and make a real difference. They're a team they're looking to get more youthful, a team that are full of youthful ambition, managed by a young Brazilian Thiago Motta. A desperate sort of desire to play a new form of football, an attacking form of football. They've got two American internationals there in Timothy Ware and Weston McKennie. So they're looking for Tillman to come and join them. I think Jonathan David of Canada is also on their sites at the moment as well, from a little North American enclave there in the northern part of Italy in Turin. But rumours that Tillman could be off to Juventus. That'd be a fantastic move for him to move to a club as prestigious as Juve. It certainly would give him a CV of massive envy around the world. Bayern Munich, Rangers, PSV Eindhoven, and Juventus certainly would be a very, very prestigious CV of football teams for Malik Tillman. And look, no matter what you thought of Tillman during his time at Rangers, we certainly wish him all the very best in whatever he decides to do. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered in today's video. Good morning if you're picking up in the morning, good afternoon or good evening. Obviously, depends when you're watching the video. Please, obviously, smash the sub, help the channel to keep on growing, help me to get towards my goal of going full time with this YouTube malarkey to give you all the latest Rangers news and just give it a bit more effort and detail, a little bit more research time, a little bit more information, a little bit more everything time into actually doing this job rather than having to go and work in the horrible retail industry. On the way out, guys, if you can do me a couple of favors. Number one, smash the like. It helps the content and to grow. Two, drop a comment. That helps as well. And three, remember always, we are the people.